Hello, everybody. My name is Leo Zhang, and I'm from Alibaba Group. I realize I'm the last presentation of the day, so I'll try my hardest to not let you guys fall asleep at some point. So the intention of this presentation really is just to give you an idea of what's going on in Chinese e-commerce and who Alibaba are, and ways that we are innovating to adjust to the Chinese landscape and working with international companies. So this is Shanghai. So this was Shanghai in 1990. And this is Shanghai just last year. I mean, that's a huge difference. That's a big change. And China every day, I mean, even from my point of view, you know, I didn't go back for 10 years at one point, and I live in London. And you just notice so many changes, not just in architecture, but people's way of life and people's taste and consumption. It's completely different. And every day you wake up, it's a completely different world out there. So what this presents is an opportunity because Chinese consumption is growing. Chinese consumption in the next 3 years is expected to be bigger than the UK and Germany combined. So why is this? So the reason for the growth in consumption is because there's a growing middle class. By 2020, there's going to be 500 million middle class in China. And not only will there be more middle class in China, but also it's going to be more evenly distributed. Right now, we're seeing them in Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities, but by 2020, we're expecting an emergence of the middle class in Tier 3 cities as well, in the less prosperous cities. There's a rise in e-commerce. These new middle class have access to e-commerce. They have technology to be able to make a purchase online. And we have more shoppers in rural areas. So that's the second contributor. The consumer economy is growing, not only because people from the city are purchasing, but people in rural areas have higher disposable income, and we're seeing faster growth of the middle class from rural areas, and they're contributing towards growing consumption and growing online sales. Also, there's a younger population shopping online. The under 35, they account for 65% of consumption growth. They're important, and they're the target of a lot of the e-commerce activities for Alibaba. And not only are they shopping, they're very social, they're very interactive. And often you hear, you know, I go to a lot of these forums, and everyone's talking about mobile now. You know, mobile is super important. In China, mobile happened yesterday, and everybody's on mobile. Everyone pays their utility bills on one app. They speak to their friends on one app. They do shopping in one app. You know, it's called WeChat. Everything, their life revolves around socializing, and they're very influenced by social media. Typically, before a purchase, there will be 7 different touch points before a consumer would buy products in China. They're doing their research, they're better informed than ever. And these younger middle class population, we're finding that they're different from the previous generation. The previous middle class in China, they were perhaps less exposed to other countries, they had a higher disposable income than before, and they had you know, an appetite for luxury brands, the obvious luxury brands, particularly in fashion. But what we are seeing is more dynamic taste arising from the new middle class, or the second generation, G2 as we call it. And 60 to 70% of our purchases are online. We have an event called 11/11. I don't know how many of you have heard of 11/11, but I wanted to bring it up in this presentation. It's called Singles Day. Does everyone know put your hand up if you know what Singles Day is. Okay, quite a lot of you. The Singles Day is a shopping festival, and it happens on the 11th of November. It celebrates singledom, So it's kind of like a rebellion against Valentine's Day, and it started out of university dorms. And what Alibaba did was that they created a shopping festival out of this to appeal to the new middle class, to the younger population. And now this is not only a massive sales day, it's a national festival. If you put the sales of Singles Day all together, it would exceed that of Cyber Monday and Black Friday. So it's a really, really important sales day, and some companies on Alibaba make more than half of their sales in that just one day. Typically, our logistics company delivers 30 million packages per day. On Singles Day, that can increase to as much as 150 million, 15 times that amount. So our philosophy, with all these changes, we see an opportunity for international brands. Alibaba was born in China, but made for the world. And what this means is that we want to work with small businesses and large businesses, to help them facilitate international trade, so for them to have a customer base beyond their domestic realm. So we want to make it easy to do business anywhere. And that can range from helping the manufacturer in China sell on Alibaba.com, and working with larger international brands like Sainsbury's reach out to Chinese consumers on Alibaba's Tmall platform. To give you a taste of who Alibaba is, I'd like to show you a video of Alibaba, and what you'll see here is our campus and really what we represent.
Alibaba was created in China and founded on a simple belief that small businesses are the bedrock of a prosperous society, and that everyone who wants to do business should have the chance to succeed. We built what has become the world's largest online marketplace, where millions of small businesses can connect with their consumers, and where everything they need to start, run, and grow their business is only a click away. We helped entrepreneurs thrive in China, brought millions of people into the economy, and transformed how people shop, work, and live. Our efforts help to create jobs, spur innovation, and drive the growth of a new middle class. Although Alibaba was born in China, it was created for the world. And now we're ready to help small businesses prosper in every corner of the globe. We're building the infrastructure of commerce for the future, using technology to break down barriers and expand the boundaries of what's possible, so that someday, anyone who wants to do business anywhere will be able to connect with people everywhere.
So I just want to talk about some of our values and what makes Alibaba who it is, and what makes Alibaba also a very successful player in China and internationally. I think that leading by vision and values is one particular quality, and it's set very much by Jack Ma. He always, is very well known internally for having many different quotes, and it's very common, in meetings for these to be referred to. One of the most popular one is, today is difficult, tomorrow is much more difficult, the day after is very beautiful. So what this means is that we take a long-term view. Jack Ma actually, before Alibaba, had another business which is similar to Yellow Pages, and that failed. And he encountered many other failings, like failing university exams, but it was always about the long term. And that's something that is very much in the DNA of an Alibaba staff. We look to the long term, but we also are equipped for any short-term difficulties that may come our way. And I think that not only does that keep us grounded, but it also means that we're an extremely humble company for the size that we are. We stay agile and innovative. Every day when I'm working, I hear about something new that I didn't know about before. There's a new business unit, there's a new project going on. By the time I'd had an idea, somebody's already run with it. And the reason why we have to stay agile is because China is changing so fast. That goes back to my first two slides when I showed you how quickly Shanghai has changed. You have to stay ahead, and you have to expect the unexpected. The third quality is we follow the customer. So Alibaba started as Alibaba.com, the B2B company that I mentioned. So as somebody that wants to source from the Far East, you might have used it before yourself, you would go on Alibaba.com and you would source the product. And then we saw an opportunity. eBay entered China, and there was a lot of B2C activities, and there was an opportunity we saw for a Chinese company to come into this space. We then had Taobao. Taobao is a marketplace, but it's an open marketplace. And Taobao, as a marketplace in general, has 80% market share when we look at C2C in China. The B2B marketplace is Tmall and Tmall Global. That came later. Tmall was launched in 2003. And the reason why it was launched was because we wanted to separate established brands from the C2C marketplace, which was Taobao. We wanted to give it a more boutique feel. And then we created Tmall Global. Tmall Global is similar to Tmall. It has access to the same customer base. Tmall at the moment has 423 million customers online, and Tmall Global has the same access. The only difference is the setup. Tmall Global is specifically for international merchants that want access to the China market, that wants to begin to build their brand. And they're able to open a flagship store without a presence in China. They don't need to have any logistics set up. They don't need to have anybody on the ground. They can just set up an account, and we have an escrow payment service. We have bonded warehouses and a free trade zone, so they can get set up pretty much straight away. And then there are an array of other business units like Cainiao, which is our logistics network, which is an add-on to Tmall and Tmall Global to enable it to run. And then we have Alimama, which is a marketing platform which complements marketplace activity and supports any paid search and banner ad activities. So this is just to give you an idea of how our business has evolved over time. So the way that we position it, if you are interested in entering China, is that there isn't really a right or wrong answer. And I think that this is very different from a typical marketplace in Europe. You know, you'd find a marketplace and you set up a store, you list your products, and hope for the best. And for Alibaba, we really want to just facilitate your overall China market entry. So we talk about Tmall, we talk about Tmall Global, but really we want to be there the whole journey, with the ultimate aim of you having a brick and mortar store in China, with you having an online and offline presence where you can potentially complement the two and have some O2O activities. We want to help you really enter and become established in China. So depending on how much experience you have, you may choose different types of entry mode. So if you, for example, have no experience in China, you have very low brand awareness, you may want to work with an umbrella store, a multi-brand store that already exists on Tmall, so you don't have to invest so much in setting up your own flagship store. You don't have to have people on the ground. So you leave that to somebody else, and you simply distribute your products around China, or you could do it through a distributor. If, however, you already have a presence in China, you're on the ground, an example may be Marks & Spencer. They already have stores in China, they have relatively good brand awareness in China, then you would choose Tmall because you already have the domestic presence. So it really depends on where the company is on the scale, which is why we never really have one solution for any company. And I just want to wrap up with some of the brands that we're working with, and I guess the key takeaway is we want you to identify exactly where you are on that scale, and we want to also work with you in not just facilitating one step of the way, but all of the way. And our quality in helping you be successful, I think, really is about staying innovative and also just leading by that vision. And I think when you enter, you know, you have to take the long-term view, as I mentioned with the quote from Jack Ma, you know, stay agile, but what is the long-term view? And we always ask typically for a proposal. It's quite unusual when you go on a marketplace that they would ask for a business plan, but this is a China market entry. This is not about just listing a couple of products on a marketplace. You have to think about your branding as well, you know, how you brand your products in Europe. It may not necessarily appeal to the Chinese consumers. How are you going to innovate, and how are you going to understand the consumer better and position your brand? And lastly, how are you going to follow the customer? Are you going to interact with them through mobile? Are you going to engage in social media? Where are you going to start with all of this? And these are just some of the questions that a lot of brands ask themselves, and we hope to also assist you with along the way. Okay, thank you.